Guys, everybody, thank you all for coming out today. I do appreciate it. My name is Matthew Orton. I'm the host of the Drunken Cryptids podcast. Thank you. Sorry, award-winning podcast. I keep forgetting to drop that. Yeah, award-winning podcast. So, again, Wendell and the Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel put this on. They asked me and Todd Neiss to come out. So, y'all give it up for Wendell real quick. And we are right in the heart of Sasquatch area. Holy cow. Just driving up here, me and my girlfriend were talking. She goes, I bet he's up here somewhere. I was like, yeah, they're camping. This is where they investigate. So I do want to start off. We got some door prizes, and we're going to kind of do it kind of on the honor system. And I've already thought of the first number. So y'all gonna pick a number between 1 and 30. Okay, and I've already told the number to Todd, so Todd knows the number. So, all right, so I'm going to go around the room real quick. The number 1 through 30, and go.
2.
Okay.
17.
Which one?
17.
17.
15. 22.
12.
27.
3.
3. 3.
24.
29.
23.
25.
13.
Right. Which one?
Somebody say 14.
No.
26.
Do we have a 14? Somebody say 14 over there already? No.
26.
26?
1.
1?
18.
18. Lucky number 13.
And
13. First prize is given on out. So,
What did he win?
I don't know. What do you win, Wendell?
Drunken.
A Drunken Cryptids sticker! Yay, Drunken Cryptids! All right. I gotta promote my own show. I'm just saying. Look at the good looking t-shirts in here. If y'all haven't listened to my show, I do a campfire setting based upon encounters. Some of my own research, some of my armchair research, some of the field research I've been able to do. We talk to people all across the country. And it's aired twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. I'm on all streaming platforms. I think Talina was nice enough to pass out cards, so y'all can just go take a picture and go right to the website. I do appreciate it. The other guest with me is Todd Neiss. Now, Todd Neiss has been a researcher in the field for over 30 years. He's been featured on numerous TV shows, and I have a funny story about that. So, I go to bed with the TV on. Anybody else go to sleep with the TV on? Okay, all right. And I like to watch documentaries. I'm a nerd. I do this stuff. And on Netflix right now, they've got the Unexplained with William Shatner. And they had an episode with myths, monsters, and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll put it on. So I'm waiting there and I'm reading as I was talking. And all of a sudden I hear like my friend's voice coming over the TV. I was like, what the hell? And I look up and there's Todd right there on TV. And I was like going, okay, it's a little uncomfortable, Todd. I'm in bed and you're staring at me. So, but it was really, yeah, there's twice now. It was creepier on TV than in person, I'm not going to lie. But having somebody with Todd's experience and knowledge able to come in and talk and share his information with you guys and answer y'all's questions about it. You know, Todd's not a guy that goes out there to be on TV. Todd is a guy that goes out there because he had an encounter in April of 1993 while in the military in the Oregon National Guard, and it changed his life. Todd, and if you've had an encounter, and Todd will bet me on this one, some of y'all probably have as well, if you do have an encounter with these creatures, it does change your life. Good, bad, or indifferent, but it does leave a mark. Numerous accounts of people who are afraid to go in the woods because of this. And then there's people who are become obsessed with it. Hi, Wendell.
Hi.
Okay?
Yep.
And, you know, Todd's story fits a lot of us, and a lot of us can relate to his story because of you don't know what it is, you don't know what happened, you don't know what transpired, but something that shouldn't be there is there, and it's looking at you. What do you do? My favorite one is people have never had an encounter and they say, oh, I'm going to shoot. And the funny part about it is people with rifles out there, when they have these encounters, they don't. My other favorite line I get is, why didn't you get a picture? Right? I asked y'all that. Okay? I'm guilty of it asking too. Same line, do I have my camera on me? Or if you do have your camera on you, if you're walking through the woods, you're not doing what Chris is doing right now. You're not walking through, you're going like
It's like
this.
the last thing you think about.
You're not. The last thing you are thinking of is. And a real quick story before I let Todd talk is in our investigation our area 1, and I've got, Tony and Jacob or Chris will support me on this. I had an encounter. And the first thing I said was, WTF is that? And this is a daylight encounter. It was 75 yards away because we lased it. Tony had a wonderful little laze finder that we lased the area. And right off the bat, I had a rifle and I raised up the rifle to look at through the scope. And couldn't see it, there was a branch. If you've ever been with scopes, there's something right there. So I switched the iron and tried to adjust myself. I did it like 3 times. And the 3rd time, it was gone. So not one time did I think about putting the rifle down and pulling out my camera as something 75 yards away and taking a picture. And then the reason we do get blurred pictures is a wonderful theory that Todd's been working on for a number of years. I don't want to steal his thunder on that one. So that's the reason why. But if you've obviously had an encounter, or you want to be here, or you believe, or you want to be here, or you have questions about it, or you want to be in here with us right now. So thank y'all for coming down. I do appreciate it. So before I come back on, I'm going to turn it over to Todd. So Todd, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Hats off to our host, Paradise Pizza. Let's go for that. And again, tip of the hat to Wendell and the Mafia.
Cartel.
Mafia.
It's a mafia.
But anyway, they were kind enough to invite me on one of their treks here a couple months back, and had a great time. It's a really prime area. And I just moved out here from Oregon about a year ago, actually. And coming from the Pacific Northwest, ground zero really for Bigfoot activity, I had no idea, no concept at all about what I was going to find when I came out here. I had my doubts. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, if you asked me to list 5 states where I'd say they probably didn't exist, I think Arkansas would have been in there. I had to eat a little crow on that because I hadn't been here even a month when I started doing my due diligence, started to do some research and try to look into what is going on here in Arkansas. And I was blown away, to be honest with you. I went through one database. Now we bought a small ranch up above Jasper, up toward Mount Sherman, if you know where that's at. And so I got on one database and started going through the counties around me as well as Newton County. And within an hour, I had discovered 19 sightings, I take it back, 18 sightings within 40 miles of the ranch. Now, we live just above the Buffalo River. I'm sure y'all know where that's at, okay? I'm up toward, like I say, up toward the headwaters, Mount Sherman, Ponca area. The 19th one came after I had gone back to Oregon, which I had done several times. Up until about 2 weeks ago, I had a home there as well. And somebody called me up and said, you need to check out. I had gone through my first database with the BFRO site. She said, you need to look at the Bigfoot mapping project because there's one within 1,000 yards of your ranch. And sure enough, I looked it up. They sent me a link. I looked it up. Literally 1,000 yards as a crow flies down in a place called Webb Branch, which is a little creek that runs down into the Buffalo. Right there was a sighting. So I'm really excited about what I've found since I got here. One of the things that really struck me after having done this for, it'll be 33 years come April, that I've been researching, was the names that you guys have out here. I thought I'd heard everything. I could rattle off 100 different names that people have come up with over the years, different places. Everything seems to be rather kind of regional. Names like Ponca Pete. That Ponca area is pretty hot. Had a number of sightings in there, to the extent that they've actually named the sucker, right? Ponca Pete, right? Of course, everybody's heard of the Ozark howler. There's some controversy as to whether that's a cat or a Bigfoot, but you know, who knows? We know there are some cats in the area. Everybody knows about the Falcon Monster down there, Legend Boggy Creek history. One that really got me was, well, somebody told me, go over to a little town of Deer or Nails and just, don't say Bigfoot. And it was a small town, I mean, you blink you were through them, but just ask about the wild folks. What? They'll know exactly what you're talking about. How nonchalant is that? You know, you got the normal folks, and you got the wild folks. It's just like, no big deal. But as I started looking back into history, farthest one back I found is in 1827, pre-Civil War. How many of y'all know about, you don't know where Blue Springs, Arkansas is? Okay. Do you know that Blue Springs is not named for the color of the water of the spring? The real story behind Blue Springs is that in 1827, a gentleman went hunting. In 1827, if you didn't own a rifle, or you didn't know a rancher, you didn't go hunting, you didn't have meat. He went out and he's following different tracks. He's going turkey tracks, hog tracks, deer tracks, bear, and then he came across these tracks that were big, bigger than anything he'd ever seen. And he's thinking, you know, bigger the track, the more meat, right? So he's like following these tracks. This is right near Blue Springs. He got along this game trail, and all of a sudden this boulder comes rolling down the hill. You can look this up. Type in any search engine, Blue Springs, or Blue Springs Bigfoot, or Blue Man. Because that's what the person told me. Check out Blue Man. What's that? That's another name for Bigfoot. Okay. I pulled up 6 articles immediately, including the original article from 1827. It's out there for you to look at. The gentleman's name was Blue. His parents named him Blue, and Blue had gone hunting. He gets close to where the springs are at, I'm following this game trail, all of a sudden this boulder comes rolling down the hill. Big sized boulder comes rolling down the hill, and he's jumped out of the way and watched it go by, and he's thinking, well, you know, erosion, gravity, you're going to have rock slides from now and then, no big deal. And he steps back out on the trail, and here comes the second boulder. Jumps out of the way. Like, okay, that's kind of weird. But then he like looks up the trail where this boulder comes, and he saw what he described. Of course, Bigfoot wasn't a name back then. He described a large, huge, hairy, giant, upright thing. That ended up getting the name Blue Man. Blue Man is another name for Bigfoot. It was named because when he got back, oh, that's Blues Man. So it stuck. But Blue Springs is named after Blue, who had a Bigfoot encounter there.
What
So
year
there
was that again?
That'd be good for trivia. Yes?
What year again was that?
1827. So, the names just blow me away. Smokey Joe's another one. They just keep coming out, and I'm just amazed. So, I am really looking forward to continuing my research here in Arkansas. I'm very encouraged by what I've found out. But before I go any further, let me tell you how I got started in this. Yes, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Yes, it is, you know, Pacific Northwest is probably got majority of the sightings around the country. When you look at a map of sightings, we're talking Northern California, Oregon, Washington, right up into British Columbia. Hotspot. But did I hear about it? Yes. Did I believe in it? No. I didn't watch the shows. I didn't read the books. I didn't care. I guess if anything, I was agnostic. I didn't believe they exist. I had written it off as one of these things, being a hunter, fisherman, hiker, mountain climber. It's one of those things I hadn't seen any evidence. Of course, I wasn't looking. So I just put it out as a campfire story to scare old kids, keep them from running away from the camp at night, or, you know, Native American War, which I have to take it back because Native American War is there's a lot of truth in it. So I don't mean to demean that at all, but that's where I had placed it. So on April 3rd, 1993, I was a combat engineer with the Oregon Army National Guard, sergeant at the time. We, combat engineers, we use a lot of explosives in what we do, all right? C4, composition 4, plastic explosives, ammonium nitrate, of course dynamite, TNT, PETNs, a lot of different types of explosives, some of which you probably aren't even aware of, but each particular kind of explosive has its own specific use. For instance, C4 it doesn't create a huge shock wave, it creates a lot of heat. In fact, it'll get, in a split second, it'll get 6 times hotter than the sun. Think about that. So what do we use C4 for? Is to, for instance, drop a bridge. We can pack C4, we study the bridges. There's only 12 types of bridges in the world so far. We study each one, we know where the weak spots are, we know where we can place explosives, how much, depending on, there's a lot of calculation involved, but we can drop a bridge, and C4 is perfect for that, because you need about 4 times as much TNT to drop that same bridge. C4 will take those steel I-beams on that bridge and melt them like butter. So on this particular day, we had 3 scenarios. We got special permission to go into some private timberland, which even without us going in there had very high security. They had due to lawsuits and things like that, they had security that patrolled that. They had gates you couldn't get around. And so when we got permission to go in there, we not only had their security, but we had an extra ring of security around it to keep the civilians out of there. We couldn't risk having hikers or people coming in that area while we're doing these explosives. I'm talking big explosives. I'm talking explosions that will turn this building into sawdust in a minute. I'm talking mushroom clouds, 2,000 feet high. We're talking temporary earthquake kind of stuff. The first site, we had those cutting charges I was talking about, C4. In fact, I don't know if I told you, Matt, but I found photographs from that day, just recently.
Really?
I dug them up, yeah. I may have them on my phone. But yeah, so I got pictures of us actually placing the charges.
Don't tell anybody. No.
So anyway, so we had steel I-beams there. We have a certain way of doing it, tamping them with blocks and boom, cut these girders. Go on to the second site. There we had a mock minefield. One of the things we do, because our mission is mobility, counter-mobility, meaning our troops, if they run into an obstacle, whether it be man-made or natural, in this case a minefield, we don't take out the whole minefield, we blow a pathway through it so that we can get our troops where they go. And conversely, we put in minefields, so we want to stop the enemy, we'll do the opposite. So they had this surface laid minefield, meaning that the mines, these anti-tank mines, were right on top of the ground. And so we placed charges next to them, detonated that, another huge explosion. Move on to the third and final site where we were going to do a cratering charge. Cratering charge is where you blow a road in half. We just basically deny the enemy the use of that access. And to do that, we use ammonium nitrate. So we put about 250 pounds of ammonium nitrate that we'd been soaking in diesel fuel for about 3 hours before that. Put our blasting caps in it, lit the fuses. Standard operating procedure, you get in the vehicle and get the hell out of there, right? You don't want to be around when that thing goes off. I happen to be a passenger sitting behind a driver in a Humvee. So I'm not having to focus on the road. The driver and the alternate driver, A driver, is up front. They're having a conversation. He's watching the road. But I had the opportunity to look around the countryside. I hunted deer and elk in that area, so it was natural for me to look around the area. And a really nice day for April the coast race, so I had the window down, and I'm just, blasting the area, looking around, look for wild animals, and got a little bit more than I had counted on. We rounded this corner. Again, we're departing the third blast site with a bomb about ready to blow up behind us. And the second quarry, which we had detonated about an hour, maybe 90 minutes before that, comes into view. And standing right out there in the open, I see these 3 jet black figures. Literally in the gravel pit, in the gravel quarry. Now imagine the gravel, or the rock was actually basalt, so it's a lot like, it's a very light gray, similar to cement. So these jet black creatures, standing with that light gray rock behind it on a sunny day, had a very good, very clear contrast. Could make them out quite clearly. My first concern was, what are those people doing there? Because somehow somebody got past security. But it only took me a second or two to figure out what I was looking at were not humans, or at least not Homo sapiens. And the reason I say that was the silhouettes they presented were not human. The arms, for instance, were all the way down to their knees. And they weren't leaning over. I'm talking standing straight up. These arms stretched all the way down to the knees. And the legs seemed a little longer than that when you compared with the ratio of a human torso as well. But it was what they were doing, and really tipped me off. The one in the middle, again, there were 3 of them. Imagine, if you will, like this. The one in the middle was taller, at least a head taller than the other 2, which flanked it on its left and right. That one in the middle stood there like this, and it was like almost like a statue. But these 2, on either side of it, were doing this. Shifting weight from foot to foot, swaying back and forth, these long pendulous arms swaying back and forth in front of their knees. The entire time I watched them. Now, time, this wasn't 3 seconds, 5 seconds, something ran in front, you know, almost a half a minute. I watched them, I estimate about 25 seconds. So that's a good long view to look at what I was looking at. And I assumed I was the only one looking at them, because the driver and the alternate driver were up front having a conversation, and of course watching the road. I'm looking at this, and I'm literally in shock. Once I realized what I was looking at. How many here have seen these creatures? Raise your hand if you have. So we got about half a dozen of us. Okay. There is a range of emotions you go through when you see these things, and it seems to be fairly standard depending on the actual situation, how close you were up, you know, how long you're looking at them. But I just couldn't take my eyes off these things. And it wasn't until 25 seconds had passed when we went on down. I lost a view of them because we took a turn. And I just slumped back in my seat, and I'm just trying to. My head was swimming with all a million questions, as you can imagine. And so we get down to the staging area, which wasn't too much farther, and I naturally jumped out of my vehicle and jogged back up in the direction we just came. I just had to see them again. Well, unfortunately, our protocol would not let us leave outside of view of the entire the unit. You were restricted from. Everybody had to be accounted for. Obviously, it's a very dangerous activity that we were doing. So I went as far as I dared, and unfortunately, the hill kind of blocked my view, and I'm standing on my tiptoes trying to see it. I knew if I went another 100 yards, I'd see it, but I couldn't. So at that time, I heard somebody call my name. I said, "Hey, Neiss." And I looked over, here comes Sergeant Martin. He sees me. He said, "What you looking at?" I said, "Nothing." He came right up to me, and he looked me around the eyes. He said, "I don't suppose you saw what I saw down at that second blast site." I didn't know anybody else. And being the brave guy I was, I go, "I don't know, Jeff, what did you see?" Right? And he took a drag off his cigarette, and he made sure that nobody else was within earshot. He goes, "I saw 3 huge, haircut, Bigfoot, I guess." And of course at that, I'm like, "Dude, I did too." So, I mean, even without that corroboration, it would have changed my view, because I can't unsee what I saw. I can picture it like it was yesterday. Because we're in the National Guard, we're training 1 weekend a month. This was early April. Next month we got together to do our training, and we had 2 more soldiers come forward, and all independent of each other, and expressed that they had seen exactly what Jeff and I had seen. So it's an unusual setting for a number of reasons, because multiple creatures are fairly rare in terms of seeing them in groups. Multiple eyewitnesses, 4 sober, serious soldiers doing very serious work. And of course, the nature of what we're doing, we're blowing up their world. We were detonating bombs in their neighborhood. They came out to investigate. So that was my baptism, that was my epiphany, and that's what has driven me to research over the last 32, going on 34 years now. And it's been a long, strange trip, and one that I would not trade for anything. People ask me, you wish you hadn't seen them. No, I don't. I'm glad I did, but it's kind of like winning the lottery, right? I mean, had we came through there 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, who knows if I'd have seen them. Or maybe I would have been distracted looking out the other window. But everything came together at that moment for me to see what I saw. And because of that, I have made it my goal to find a purpose, to find meaning in what and why I saw what happened. And so in 2015, I put together the American Primate Conservancy. It's a nonprofit organization based on discovery, research, the recognition, official recognition, and ultimately protection of this species. We're at that recognition point right now. Discovery is happening all the time. Research is being done all the time. Evidence is being collected. So it's a kind of a big hurdle to get over, but without official recognition, it's going to be very difficult to get these things put on a endangered or threatened list. Yes, you were going to...
Yeah, so.
We're going to do the drawing?
We're about to. You want to do it?
What's that?
You pick a number. You tell me the number.
Okay.
No, I appreciate it. Almost like we're in a meeting real quick, except for, this is actually Coca-Cola YouTube. Hi, my name's Todd. Twitter.
Bye, Tom. Do I get a coin? I did get a coin.
Yeah, you
so
did
I'm
get
good.
a coin.
I got my first
Yeah.
coin.
Got you your first coin. You're welcome. 30 years later. Real quick though, so next coming up is going to be Wendell. So Wendell's going to come in and talk about the cartel. Wendell's been doing this for a long time as well, haven't you?
2014 official Bigfoot, and everything else before that was just getting messy.
11 years.
Yeah.
11, going on 11 years then. And again, more proof to where if you haven't encountered these creatures before, it's going to change your life or it's going to scare you to death. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, scary story. So we went on a paranormal investigation, and Talina works at the submarine that we have down in North Little Rock. So if y'all get to North Little Rock and look at the submarine, it's really neat. You get a chance to go through.
Yes, it's a real World War II submarine.
North
Came
Little
from
Rock
Turkey.
Navy.
And
That's right, we're gonna take
brought it up
over
here.
eventually.
By the way, it's been here for 20 years,
Right.
FYI.
Right.
20-year anniversary.
So she had to work late that night, and we were out at the this battlefield outside of Jacksonville, Arkansas, obviously. So she texted me. She goes, "Hey, y'all still out there?" I was like, "Yeah, we're out here, recording a podcast. We're having a good time." She goes, "I'll swing by. Come on by." Non-believer, non-believer, right? And we're walking. It's me and Chris and her. And she's holding my hand, and me and Chris see a light, and we're pausing. We're looking, and Tony and Karen and Jacob are probably about 8 feet behind us. And she jerks my arm out of my socket, spinning me around. I'm like, "What the hell?" And she goes, "Something touched me." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Something touched me." Ran his fingers across her back like that. And she was overwhelmed to where she was, I'm not going to call you, but she was crying. If you've been through this, I mean, you've had an encounter, it's going to get you emotional.
She jumped like 3 feet.
She did. So, and I feel like that meme, first time, so I teased her the whole entire night about it. But just an example to where it can affect your life in a lot of ways, just besides Bigfoot and everything. So, but without further ado, Wendell, the man behind the event, the man behind the Bigfoot Cartel, the Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel, I should say.
Yeah,
So, you okay? You got it?
I got it.
Sure. Want to stand right here?
Welcome everybody out. The Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel started out as a joke one night. We was doing a Bigfoot deal, and Logan Kraft come up out of Texas, and he was late getting here, and he called and he said, I don't know, but maybe the Arkansas Cartel's got us. And I told him, well, you know, we're waiting on you here. That'd be a good name for a group in there. Let's just call ourselves Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel. So that's how that started. And our goal is to connect groups together, pool resources, and work together instead of the division that's all in across the state and in different groups. It's going to take everybody working together to get this job done and improved. So that was our goal, is to connect everybody. And we do have teams that's all over Arkansas that they do their own research, but if they have a problem or a big sighting or a lot of activity, because certain Squatch, Bigfoot do move around at different times, and there's more activity than one, they'll call us in, we'll get everything arranged and everybody meet there. My first encounter with a Squatch was, I was 12-year-old, and I was the Catherine Creek down that's below where I live. I was down there squirrel hunting, spring squirrel hunting. That's the difference in today's and back in. A 12-year-old was out doing everything they wanted to by themselves. So I was down there squirrel hunting with the gun that I just worked all summer to buy, or the fall, the previous summer. Anyway, I was on that bluff line. I kept hearing something. I'm like, what in the world is that? And I'd hear a rock throw in the creek, and it was across the creek from there. And I was up on this bluff like this trying to look. I could see the rocks hit, but I couldn't see what was doing. Finally got so loud, I run back up to the house, and my uncle was sitting, which is my porch nowadays, sitting on the porch there, and I said, Uncle Chet, there's something down there that's making all kind of strange sounds. He jumped up and said, boy, I told you don't go down there by them boogers. And I was, what? But anyway, that never thought nothing about that. Went ahead and growed up. 2011, I started where I was a youth leader at church, and we took underprivileged kids around the state hunting and fishing and everything. We did little videos and everything. Well, one of the guys there at church said, you need to do Bigfooting. And I said, I was still on the fence. I said, no, there ain't no such thing as that. Of course, I'd seen the Boggy Creek Monster and everything, but I wasn't a real believer. Even though I'd heard that, I just wrote, back as a kid, I wrote that off as, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't no Bigfoot. But now I know it was. Anyway, he said, well, look in your Bible. If you don't believe in Bigfoot, tell me what Esau was. Read Genesis 25:25. He come out born, covered in red hair, and two of his wives were giants. He said, you trace it from there. So about 2 months, I traced all that through, and I believe that's what Bigfoot is descended from. We work with all groups, all the way from the ape phenomenon. They believe it's just an ape, all the way to paranormal, UFO. So we work with all groups. So, but anyway, I wrote that off after I said, yeah, that's probably what they are. 2014, let's fast forward to there, we had all the groups sitting around in our office, is about this size, called it the Arkansas Boys, is that group of boys that we took and hunting everywhere. We was sitting there in January. The only thing we was doing was coon hunting. A lot of them didn't like that because it was cold and at night. So I was sitting there and I said, well, what do y'all want to do? And all of them was looking forward to turkey season. Well, I said, that's another month or two away. What do y'all want to do? I said, jokingly, let's go down to Falk, Arkansas and hunt for the Bigfoot down there, the Falk Monster. Only one of them boys had known what that was. So we went, ended up going down there, posted on our deal, ended up going to the Falk Mart and meet Denny Roberts. And because there's like 8 of us there. There's 2 adults and the rest was teenagers. Because we was there, and me and him got to talking, we knew the same person from Clinton. He said, well, normally I don't do this. I let people do whatever they want to, but last week we had a sighting, and they ended up burning the whole area so that maybe it would leave away from there. And I said, oh, really? So he gave us a map. I guess still got that map up on the wall, and it's signed by Denny Roberts. We ended up going there. One of our groups went to the original Ford place that was down there, and the other one was 4 of us was in one truck. We went and looked where they had burnt, seen some stuff. Like I said, I hadn't, up to that point, I hadn't seen no tracks or done that. Seen something that looked like a track, but we got back in the truck and it was getting dusty dark. So we drove on down the road, drove around one of the corners there. Sure enough, about 100 yards from us is a man-like figure that was huge, dark colored that far you couldn't tell if it was hair or what, the distance we was. Jumped from one ditch to the middle of the road to the next ditch and then run right through a 4-strand barbed wire fence. Broke all 4 wires. And I remember, because he had his truck window down, I remember them wires on right here where we is at already moving from that far distance. G.I. Joe is his name. He looked over and he said, did you see that? I said, yeah, I saw that. What do you think? I'm sitting right here, you know. But anyway, we pulled up here, and by the time we pulled up there, got out, it was done going into the woods. We yelled and screamed, tried to get it to turn its head or whatever, but didn't have nothing. From then on, I've been hooked. We've been all over Arkansas doing different Bigfoot encounters and groups, and people call us that need help. We come, and twice we've had to help them decide that they need to move on. But usually it's with lights or sounds or something like that. But if you ever move anything away, they'll come right back. So from then on, it brought us to this day, and being able to talk to y'all. That's about all that I had to say about it, and we're working with anybody that can. So, where's Matthew go?
Outside.
Oh, outside.
They're outside there.
All right. Anybody got any questions or anything or comments they want to talk about? No?
Have you had any sightings since then? Have you seen anything else like that since?
Yeah, right here close actually. I've seen one with the shoulder and back and the side of the head as it jumped out of a tree. And there was 7 of us that was standing there that's witnessed that happen. And then I've seen one at Sillamore. Basically the same thing. It wasn't in a tree though, but it's going off the bluff side the same way. And then here local, I don't say that's an eyewitness because I didn't visually see it, but we had them on thermal where they was moving in and out, and you can see the shape of them moving in and out. And then we've had rocks thrown at us and had them bluff charged to where you can hear it coming through the woods, and then the trees shake right at you, just and then it runs off. So that's the encounters that we've had.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm back again. Sorry, guys. I apologize for being back. All right, y'all get it from Wendell? Yay, Wendell! Y'all can do a better job than that. This is Wendell's idea to put. Thanks, George. Will you sing a song afterward? I mean that. I'm like a huge fan. I really am.
He needs a picture later too.
Oh yeah, where do you? Oh, I'm taking a selfie with George Strait. I'm gonna charge $5 a picture if y'all want. I'll give you half.
Going straight on over.
Yeah, we got a guitar. We'll make it post a
Yeah, that's
guitar.
okay. No, I know.
So, real quick, everybody's talking about encounters and stuff. I'm going to keep mine kind of short and sweet because I'm going to bring Todd back on. We're going to talk about some other stuff we got going on for my show, with what's going on with Todd, where my show and company is going now. I grew up in Utah. That's where I'm originally from. I grew up in the Uintas, the Wasatch Front. Y'all already know about the Uintas. Y'all know all about the lovely Skinwalker Ranch and everything they have up there. So apparently I grew up in the cabin 30 miles as the crow flies from Skinwalker Ranch. So in the 80s, we didn't know what the hell Skinwalker Ranch was. It wasn't even named Skinwalker Ranch at the time. It was another family. So we didn't have any clue. Had some tree knocks, noises up there as a kid. We blew it off as you're a kid in the woods playing around, so you're not gonna think it's Bigfoot. But I did grow up in a Bigfoot pro home. My mom had an encounter, my stepdad had an encounter. My real dad doesn't believe in any of this stuff. He does now, supposedly, allegedly, because I'm doing this. So he's all like, "Yay, my son." I have no idea what Bigfoot is. But so that's how I grew up. I got lucky to be in a home that supported me in my Bigfoot research, and I'd go to the woods playing G.I. Joe and looking for Bigfoot at the same time. In 2002, I was stationed at Fort Hood, and I was put on guard duty for AHA, Ammunition Holding Area, AAHA. So this is the little, I'm going to summarize it, Jacob. The AHA story, I'm just going to summarize it. Because it's a long encounter, because it happened all night long on the guard side. My encounter has been told on some other podcasts. If y'all want, I'll tell you what they are so you can go look them up. But the thing was, we had something stalk us all night long, me and my 2 guards, to the point to where I had a big rock thrown at me, big rock. I mean, I went charging after this thing, whatever it was, because in my mind it was other people out there, not one thing of it being a cryptid or any kind of paranormal thing. But the big rock being thrown at me, logs breaking, things moving real quick around us, silence. If you've been out there, it gets quiet. And when it gets quiet, and it's in Texas, and it's August, it doesn't get quiet at all. My guards were literally crying. They were begging to leave the guard site. They wanted to leave. Can we leave? They were begging, Sergeant, can we leave? Please, can we leave? And we can't. I mean, our first general order is, in the military, I will guard everything and limit my post, equip my post, only when properly leave. So I sticking to my general orders while my 2 guards are freaking out, and I have to be the brave guy. You know, like we talked about before, it affects you differently. That morning, on the other hand, when I got home, totally different. I pretty much broke down, and it drove me nuts. I didn't sleep. My wife thought I got back from Afghanistan. She was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "No, something happened." You know, I almost like, you know, Ace Ventura in the shower crying, if you've seen that movie. You know, some of y'all like, okay, so you know what I'm talking about, right? And I crack jokes about it because I experienced it. And it's an unreal, creepy feeling. And stuck with me for years. And that encounter checkboxed a lot of cryptids. From Bigfoot, skinwalkers, wendigos, I mean, fairies, goblins, gremlins, trolls. I mean, it checks everything you could think of besides chupacabra. I have a funny story about chupacabra. I'll get to you all later. But Todd Neiss have been kicking around an idea doing research. And the ironic part about it is, so, never met Todd. Me and Todd were researching, believe it or not, the same path. And I've got proof because I have episodes before yours, months before yours, I bring it up on. I'm just saying, sense of Biggie. I talked a lot about it. Now my buddy, you know I'm talking about already. Yeah, sense of Biggie. So, and I bring it up, which is infrasound. So, and I'm going to talk about Neil for a minute like he's not in the room. Alright? That's alright, I love you, Neil. Neil's encounter that me and him discuss on my show does validate and back up a lot of data that Todd's done, that I've been doing on my own, and that's with the possibility of Sasquatch being able to emit infrasound. So, what is infrasound? Okay, Todd will give you a lot better scientific answer than I can. I'm going to give you the layman's redneck term. Okay, it's an ultrasound that animals emit. Whales do it, elephants do it, tigers do it. What this does, when tigers do this, it's a sound that emits out towards their prey. It'll freeze their prey, kind of freak them on out, it'll scare them. The U.S. government's been playing with the infrasound for years and years and years on how to do non-violent means of control, population control, protest control. That way protesters show up, we emit infrasound, it makes them feel sick, makes them feel awkward, makes them feel odd, uncomfortable. They want to leave the area. So the government's been playing with this already. Infrasound can affect your body in so many physical ways you won't even, you don't know. Been in the woods, you feel uncomfortable, feel weird, something's wrong, get a little sick to your stomach. You know, some of y'all shaking your heads, yes, this happened to you out in the woods. Could be a side effect of the infrasound that these creatures may be emitting. And it may be a natural thing that they're able to naturally produce. Just one of those things. In India, I believe it was, these two elephants were communicating miles apart from each other through the ground, infrasound, and there happened to be a village in between the two of them. The suicide rate in this village for the males went through the roof. And they actually went through, these scientists came in trying to figure out why these people are trying to kill themselves. And they actually discovered it was these two elephants just having a conversation like, hey man, what's up? Finding good elephants? Bananas? Check that chick out. I mean, seriously, I mean, that's what, and people were committing suicide over this. The infrasound thing is very, very real. I can testify to that one. I've got a couple eyewitnesses in the room that watched me get zapped, is a good term of using it, and it will mess you up. My memory of the rest of that day is vague, very vague, and they all thought I was sick. I felt sick. I didn't sleep for days, completely weirded out, strange dreams, couldn't get comfortable, nauseated, and yeah, it was very surreal. Neil apparently has been zapped a lot. If you get a chance to go on my show and listen to his episode, he'll be more than happy to go into the detail of it. And it has affected him physically, mentally. And this is just some of the dangers and risks that when you do go out there in these woods and you are going out there, we crack jokes about Bigfoot being, you know, hey, it's funny, we can slap a Bigfoot sticker on anything and sell it. You can. I mean, it's marketable. Bigfoot's probably one of the most marketable things on the planet right now. And there's a lot of amateurs that are going to the woods and looking just to have a good time. And by all means, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do it. Just be a little smart about it. Be a little cautious because you are dealing with an unknown creature that we have not on a slab anywhere publicly. We don't have one in the garage where we're studying it, we're dissecting it, we're looking at it, we're figuring it out. There's not one in a zoo. There's not one we're watching mate. There's not one we're doing anything with at all. But they are out there. Recently in December, on Christmas Eve of this year, two guys in the Pacific Northwest went 150 miles on Christmas Eve. Y'all hear the story yet? Y'all don't know this yet? Did an episode about it. Y'all don't listen to my show. These two guys, and Todd Neiss was the one who brought it up to me. That a couple days after this happened, he sent me a message. He called me actually. He goes, dude, check this out. This was in the news, made headline news. These two researchers traveled 150 miles from their home on Christmas Eve to go to the woods. One was 57, the other one was 39. They found him 3 days later dead due to exposure. Hold on. Exposure. Now, the woods they went investigated in, here's the funny part. That county has a fine, $1,000 fine and up to a year in jail if you harm any mythological creature. This county also, again, has had numerous disappearances, 411 cases if you want to call that, in these woods. And the search and rescue team's equipment was stolen. Hold on. Stolen. The night they found they recovered the bodies. No names have been released yet. And here we are in February, and they haven't released the names. Everything's hush-hush. We were trying to do some digging into it. I think we found the name or two. I'm not going to get the name out because we don't know, because things on Facebook pop up, and AI is a wonderful tool that is wonderful to fake stuff out there. AI is a real deal. Sorry, I get conspiracy stuff in my show too. When you go to the woods, you are looking. One, don't go alone. Two, pay attention to the weather. I don't think these guys have exposure. They're not going to drive 150 miles. Am I wrong? 150 miles on Christmas Eve in Oregon wearing this. You're not going to do it. I don't care how city slicker they are. They're not going to do it. They're going to wear coats. They're going to be bundled up. And they're not going to be found 3 days later dead due to exposure. Just saying. So make sure you're careful with that. on the infrasound thing, Todd has done a lot more extensive research into this, and that's why I'm gonna pull him back up here again. So that way, I had a hit on some of the dangers and the risks that are involved. It's fun to joke around about. It's a lot of fun to goof off about. I do it all the damn time. I mean, yeah, if you follow my Facebook, you follow me at all, I'm cracking jokes and everything. So, but before I do bring Todd up about the infrasound, I do have one major announcement that we are starting this year for the first time ever. No one's ever done it. Y'all heard of Shark Week, right? Y'all know Shark Week. Who's a love Shark Week? Seals. Seals don't like Shark Week. Okay? They can't stand Shark Week. So, starting this year in 2025, the Drunken Cryptids production company is now going to be hosting Sasquatch Week. So for a full solid week, the Drunken Cryptids, the Uncomfortable Podcast, Nevermore Hollows Podcast, are going to be dropping an episode Monday through Friday, either at the end of April or the beginning of May, and it's going to be all based upon Sasquatch. We've got some tie-ins already to some big researchers out there, and every night that week there will be a live show tied in between the Uncomfortable Podcast and the Drunken Cryptid Podcast of a Q&A for y'all to be able to go on live and comment and ask your questions. No one's ever done it. First time doing it. Pretty excited about it. I've been on the phone all morning long since about 5:30 this morning because my cat woke me up at 4 o'clock. Love my cat. I do. I'm not talking about my girlfriend here. So, the infrasound up. Did I miss anything on infrasound?
Pardon?
Did I miss anything on the infrasound? This is your, this is your area of
I
expertise.
got it.
So, I'm gonna pull, but before I pull Todd back up here to dig more into the infrasound, I think that's where a lot of the risks come from out in the field. If these two guys up there in Washington actually got hit major bad with infrasound and it disoriented them and made them sick and screwed them up, and Neil can testify to that one. Yeah, maybe they did die due to exposure. Or maybe Dogman got them, hell, I don't know. But I just think it's funny to where they released everything, and you can look this up. The actual search and rescue team's equipment was stolen. If it wasn't nailed down, it was stolen. To where they actually have a GoFundMe page to recover their equipment. But then it got quiet. So, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 30. I know, I put everybody in somewhere, didn't I?
No.
It's just a reality number. So, between 1 and 30. Neil, I'll let you go first.
1.
Good number.
26.
15.
30.
12.
25.
28.
8.
20.
7.
Somebody over an 8, I'm going 11.
33.
What?
33.
I said 30.
30.
So this is why Jacob is the co-host sometimes. He doesn't pay attention. 1 and 30.
go past it, he gets cut off.
21. I don't know if somebody's there.
29.
26.
10.
15.
17.
Lucky number 7.
And, I wanted to
We're
share.
gonna give a shirt away, so I have to have your name and address, and we'll mail it to you in about 2 weeks. It'll be Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel, the town hall meeting for 2025, so I need your size, name, address.
So you're done there. So write the room up. What do you want me to write back?
So what did you call that again? Ampersand? or what?
Infrasound. Infrasound. INFRA.
Because I've heard something about it, but not a whole lot.
Everybody good out here? Anybody need anything? Anybody else? Banana pudding? German chocolate, surprise, and banana pudding. Anybody else want anything? You can pay me.
So, without further ado, back to
It's good.
Mr. Neiss. Hey, when you have an expert in the room, you want to give the expert as much time as you can.
Well, do we have to?
Try to wake it up to his voice, and let me tell you something, that was still creepy.
For starters,
Across the hall from me.
for starters, I don't believe, I don't call myself an expert. I don't believe experts that haven't laid hands on something and been able to physically study it should be an expert. Now, you can be a subject matter expert, I'll take that. The other day, they put me in the Newton County Times and put Bigfoot expert speaks, and this is going to be speaking in Jasper on Tuesday. But that being said, I guess I am a subject matter expert, and I've spent a lot of time on this. And so, one of the things that has always perplexed me is there seems to be two very distinct camps in Bigfoot research. That being those that are based on biology, science, known, and that being based on paranormal, supernatural, or the unknown, or better said, the unexplained. And those two camps couldn't be further apart, right? And you know, I've heard it all over the years, and had I heard something anecdotally from one or two or three people, but I've heard it from hundreds of people, and many of whom I consider friends, and so I can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. But again, it fell in that category. I would have to be able to explain it, not necessarily see it, be able to explain it before I could accept it. One of those things that I put in that paranormal basket, and let's just be honest, paranormal, if you look up, they're almost synonymous. Paranormal, supernatural, by definition, is very simple. It is an activity or an event that is not explainable based on known science. By that definition, there's a lot of things we know today that even 50 or 100 years ago. I hate these names like Zapped and Eyeshine and Mindspeak and things that people in that clique tend to name them, and I hopefully in time we'll get a little more better definition for these things. But the Eyeshine thing bothered me. If that's my wife, I'm not here. All right? Just saying. So one of the things, the Eyeshine thing, well, I looked into it. I glossed over, is there any animal that eyes can not just reflect light, but can generate light? Any animal can generate light. Well, we look at things like bioluminescence. We see it in nature. We see it in, I've swam in bioluminescent,
Plankton?
excuse me?
Like plankton type
Plankton,
organisms?
thank you. Photoplankton is what they call it. I scuba dive, and I've been gone diving at night, and it's interesting. It's photoplankton. As you swim through it, will actually, if you agitate it, will glow bright, which is cool. Because if a diver swims through it, it kind of leaves a light trail. It's really awesome. But we're not talking a sea creature, right? We're talking a terrestrial animal. We're talking a mammal. So when you look at things, we go up to like and say, oh, fireflies, right? Sure, they generate light. Again, bioluminescence, but I need to see it in a mammal, and so in all my research, I could not find this particular property, this attribute. So I wrote it off. Now, I made friends with some Native Americans in the Omaha tribe in Nebraska, and for years they had sent me videos of this alleged Eyeshine. And so finally one day I took a trip over there, and I spent a week on the reservation. We would go out between midnight, 2, sometimes even 3 in the morning. Now keep in mind, it's during COVID, so everything was locked down. The main village on the reservation is called Maze, and they literally locked it down from like 7 in the morning, well, from like 8 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. Nobody could leave the town. They had guards keeping people in. Now, my friend happened to be, he held a pretty high position in the tribe, so he was able to come up with excuses for us to go out. We went out for 5 nights. He took me to an area where they had these encounters. Now, I have an issue too, or I did, with this idea of habituation, or that is to say that this species tends to get habituated, socialized with humans. I kind of put that aside. Well, we got out there, and you just put it over there, huh? That's fine. So we get out there. Again, everybody in the village is locked down. We're out there, just myself and two other Native Americans. Parked the car on this very narrow 2-lane road like this out here, only place we could pull off. And he says, no lights, no cameras, nothing. We wanted absolute pitch black. And it was so black you could not see the hand in front of your face. So we get out there, and we're standing literally on the road, but we're looking into what I can only assume is very thick, heavy forest. And in his native language, he calls out, "Oh, Kage!" Which means, hello, friends. Nothing. But when I mean nothing, I mean not even crickets. Again, "Oh, Kage! Gigo!" Means come closer. I can't make this up. I see, within probably 30 seconds of the start of his calling out to a set of eyes, what appear to be a set of eyes glowing, and I'm like, is that what I think it is? And he goes, oh yeah, I do. And he continues to speak to them in both English as well as his native language. And I'm thinking, okay, my second rule is eliminate the hoax. I'm thinking, am I getting pumped here? You know, has he got a fob in his pocket? Is he activating these little LEDs out there? Is he? Well, these eyes, they blinked. They moved. They literally moved. The entire whatever moved left, right, forward, backwards, and at times we had 2 and even 3 sets of eyes at the same time. And it wasn't just the eye shine. It was the vocalizations that were going on that were out of this world. The first night we went out, on Monday night, I heard the most amazing vocalization, which to me sounded like a female. It was very loud, quite a ways back into the woods, but it sounded like a song. It sounded like a song. And by that, I mean it was 6 seconds long, roughly 6 seconds long. It changed in notes, it changed in pitch, it changed in volume, it changed in rhythm. And it wasn't scary at all. In fact, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. 10 seconds, 20 seconds go by, she does it again. Interesting thing is she did exactly the same chorus. She would go on to do it within 2 minutes. She did it again, same length, 6 seconds long, same tune. Did it 4 times in the course of 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And it was absolutely amazing. We had other sounds. And there were other things, and I can't go into great detail about it because I know we're on a time crunch, but if somebody came to me and said, you want to see Bigfoot tonight? I might humor them. Okay, well, let's go check it. If somebody said you want to see Bigfoot 5 nights in a row, I'd say you need to get some counseling. You need to get, that's not how it works. You don't just, it doesn't happen. It happened that way. 5 nights in a row in 2 locations, 2 separate locations on the reservation. We had this eye shine activity going on. That whole episode, I got on a plane, scratching my head going, all right, Mr. Know-It-All, now you're going to have to explain this because you can't unsee what you saw. So I did. When I got back, I did a lot more in-depth study and was able to come up with a very logical scientific explanation. And it's not that they're producing light, okay? Let's get that off the table right now. It does have to do with refraction or reflection, but here's the kicker. They're animals that can see at night have a layer in the back of their retina, between the retina and the optic nerve, called the tapetum lucidum. This is a crystalline structure. It's not just a smooth mirror-like layer, it's crystalline. What do crystals do? When light hits a crystal, it goes every direction. Okay? What it does is very much like night vision that I've used in the military, I know Matt uses as well, is it takes ambient light, be it lunar light or starlight, zodiac light, light at a level that we can't see with the human eye, and it amplifies it. In other words, as the light enters the eye, there's light we can't see. I mean, it's a fact. We are limited to what we can see. It doesn't mean light isn't there, just because we can't see it. Same with sound, and he touched on it. There are sounds we can't hear. It doesn't mean they don't exist. So what it does is, as it enters the eye, moonlight, starlight, any sort of ambient light, again, it was pitch black. It goes into the eye and it reflects in multiple directions inside the aqueous humor, which is the liquid part of the eye, and it enhances it to the point where it not only allows them to see at night, like cats, for instance, and other animals, owls, but it enhances it to the point, it amplifies to the point where we as humans can now see it. So it may appear that they're generating light, but they're not, and especially in such a dark situation. So I was able to put that off the list, and that led me down a rabbit hole of going, okay, I can explain this scientifically. So what other paranormal things can I look for an answer to? Because what I wanted to do was try to bridge a gap between the scientific biological folks and these people who've kind of been set aside in their own little camp, and try to say to these scientists, they're seeing what they're seeing. There's a reason for it. And get them to go, oh, to these folks saying, look, I believe you. I believe you had this experience, and there's a number of experiences you can have. I just have an issue with your interpretation as to how that happens. And let me explain to you perhaps a scientific answer for why you're experiencing certain things. And one of the things we hit on, or that I hit on, was this infrasound that Matthew talked about. Infrasound, so humans can hear up to 120 hertz and down to 20 hertz. Below that you can't hear anything. It's below bass, it's sub-bass, it's the interesting thing about bass is that bass has certain physical characteristics that higher frequencies don't. Higher frequencies will reflect off of hard surfaces. Super low bass literally penetrates. It'll go through the wall. It'll literally go through the ground. As he was talking about, elephants can communicate by generating this infrasound. It goes through their feet and has literally been able to be detected between 4 and 7 kilometers away. Other animals, other elephants, pick it up through their feet, and it's usually a call for the herd to come together, is how that works. It's a form of communication. Alligators can do it. I don't know if any of you ever seen a pond with alligators in it where they're not even on the surface. You know they're down there, but the water looks like it's almost boiling. There's ripples in the water. That's alligators. It's a mating call. That's how they attract females. They can generate infrasound. Like you mentioned, tigers. They used to hunt because they can stun their prey. They can sense, and the insidious thing about infrasound is you cannot detect the source. When you go out and buy a surround sound stereo system for your house, you get all assortment of 4, 5, 6 speakers. You put all ahead, you get one subwoofer. Why? Because you can put that subwoofer anywhere in the house, and you cannot tell. If you don't tell somebody where it's at, they will not be able to say, oh, it's over here, or it's over there, because it literally permeates. It'll go through the ground, it'll go through the air, it'll go through water. Whales now, they've been able to determine, can communicate for hundreds of miles. Hundreds of miles. Water is the ultimate medium. You know, think about dropping a pebble in a still pond. those rings go on forever. And they don't just go across the surface, keep in mind, they're also going down, and to some extent up. Water is perfect transmitter. But again, infrasound is below human hearing, but it has physiological effects that can range from anything from feeling uncomfortable to killing you. Been known to collapse your lungs. And this, for instance, came from experiments around speaker towers you see at concerts, and people wanting to be right up on the front row and up in the stage and stand by these extremely large woofers, right? Huge towers. People have had to be hauled out to the hospital, and people have literally had their lungs collapse. You can imagine. And you got a hollow balloon in there that's now getting hammered by these sonic waves. I believe the Sasquatch has this capability because it will answer a number of different things. For instance, people say, one of the things I grabbed out of the paranormal basket was, oh, these things can appear and disappear. They go into a portal. They change their frequency, and they can go into a different dimension. I call BS. One of the things, and it came to me one day when I was driving my truck, I was listening to this song that had a lot of bass to it, and I cranked that thing up to 10 and cranked up the bass, and I had to go change the lanes. How many of you have done that and then look in your rearview mirror, and that mirror is vibrating, so you can't even, it's blurring out what's in the next lane. I had to literally turn down the volume in order for my mirror to be able to see. It was because the bass, the very low bass frequencies are taking a solid object and vibrating it, okay? Imagine what that could do, again, with liquid, like what's in your eye. Can infrasound cause your vision to be obscured, to be out of focus? And if you're looking at a Bigfoot and they generate this, like that mirror, if they're able to produce a sonic wave, it could certainly, if it can vibrate a solid mirror, it can certainly vibrate a liquid-filled eye, correct? So all of a sudden you're looking at it and, oh, it disappeared. No, it didn't. It's still there, but you can't focus on it because you're being subjected to infrasound, okay? Or it wasn't there and all of a sudden it appeared out of nowhere. Well, perhaps it was employing infrasound, and then it realized that you weren't a threat, and it turned down the volume a little bit, turned down the amplitude, and now all of a sudden they come into focus. Like, I could see how that could work. So going again down the rabbit hole, looking into historical perspectives, we knew about infrasound before, or the effects of infrasound before we knew what infrasound was. Going back to the 50s, with NASA, rocket launches, Mercury, Gemini, these were literally space capsules that people were putting, that hold people they were putting on top of intercontinental ballistic missiles and launching them up into space. Now they had gauges and stuff that they had to, talk to Houston and tell them what the speed is, what the pressure is, the oxygen level, and all the power levels. And the problem was, they were calling back saying, sorry, but I can't read the dials. And what they would find out later when they did discover infrasound and then went back in history and replied it, the rocket engines were generating infrasound. It can be generated mechanically. That infrasound was causing their vision to blur, which is one of the reasons they went to digital readouts, by the way. But they also came up with ideas of how to insulate the capsule and various things to where that sort of thing doesn't happen. And it's even happened in fighter aircraft, supersonic aircraft. They have that same sort of an effect. So, okay, maybe that infrasound can explain how they tend to appear and disappear. Could it also maybe not explain blurry photos, blurry videos? if they feel like they're being intruded on, can they not? If they can do that to my mirror, they can certainly do it to that lens. And I can show you videos taken at rock concerts where when bass player hits certain notes, the crowd blurs out. It affects those sort of things. So, okay, let's take another thing. Well, zapped. I hate that word. But you know what? It happened to me. 1998. I was putting in an expedition at base of Saddle Mountain, not far from where I had my encounter. I happened to be fortunate enough to have on my team Ron Moorhead, some of you might know, Peter Byrne. And they had to leave, they left the base camp temporarily, and I had some seismic ground sensors I was placing up above our base camp. And I had to go to the bathroom, number one. So I went up under these trees because a hailstorm was coming in, and I relieved myself and just buckling up my buckle, and boom, I got roared at. Roared at. Now, this is a level of sound I could hear, trust me, but the effect it had on me, 2 minutes later I was still like this. I couldn't move. I've never been so scared in my life. And I've had rockets and mortars and gunfire fired at me in combat. Never been that scared. I felt complete loss of control. I really thought whatever did that is going to kill me. If it wants to, I was waiting to die. I was hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. The only thing I can equate it to is imagine being pushed out of an airplane at 30,000 feet without a parachute. You know how that movie's going to end, and you gotta wait for it, but it's coming. That kind of abject panic. I had written it off to adrenaline. I thought it was adrenaline. I thought my body kicked in. I've got adrenaline coursing through it, because I really felt like I was almost hooked up to electricity, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. It wasn't just a euphemism, it was real, and I could not move. Well, now, in hindsight, going through my research, I honestly believed I was quote-unquote zapped. Yes, I could hear, no question I could hear this incredibly loud, ear-splitting roar, but could it be that also embedded in that roar, which I could hear, was infrasound that I couldn't? A harmonic going off simultaneously, having that effect. And I've come to the conclusion that that is what people are dealing with when they talk about being zapped. So anyway, I have gone down rabbit hole looking at different things. Oh, one more thing. This one I was like, I'm never going to be able to explain this. Orbs. Who's heard of orbs? Big balls of light that happen to show up when Bigfoot's around. Oh boy, this is going to be tough. So,
Fairies.
so
I mean the fey poke.
So, sure enough, I found evidence of, again, human-generated infrasound that were causing hallucinations in a factory. They had just built this factory, installed this new equipment in this big factory, and hired a bunch of people to work there. And almost from day one, people were complaining about seeing things and not feeling good and not wanting to come to work, but they kept saying, we're seeing things out of the corner of our eyes, and they didn't know how to explain it. Well, by this time, thank God, they had developed equipment that could sense infrasound, and they brought the equipment in. Sure enough, one of the pieces of equipment, as part of the machinery, was generating infrasound, causing this. And lo and behold, in the report, the study they did on this, they literally say that infrasound can generate, you guessed it, in human peripheral vision, colored balls of light, or what appeared to be colored balls of light. They're not there, but as far as you're concerned, they are, because you see these things. So, all this is going to come out in a book that I'm working on. Hopefully I'll have it out this spring, finally after 30 years. But I'll have all that in there. But infrasound it goes a long way to explain a number of phenomena that heretofore were considered, you know, woo, as they call it, right?
The woo.
But I think it's kind of interesting to be able to find some scientific evidence as to how that can happen. We know large mammals, elephants, whales, they're pretty big, right? Crocodiles, tigers can generate infrasound, so why not these creatures? This is a large mammal. And I don't think they've actually discovered everything that can, they've tested certain animals. I don't think they've discovered how many different animals can do this. Probably certain other fishes. I've heard turkeys can do it. Peacocks can do it. They can do a drumming sound. So, yeah, so that is, it's going a long ways to try to bridge that gap between the known versus the unknown, or the yet to be known. So anyway, do you want to open up the Q&A at this point? Or?
Here in a second, I do. I want to do one more drawing.
Oh,
Sure.
When Tony, one of my investigators, he actually, we were talking a little bit about it, and Tony has an app on his phone that detects a whole bunch of sound waves, and some of them being infrasound. In the middle of nowhere, and I mean nowhere, you know where we're talking about, our area, okay? We actually were picking up infrasound. He's got it running right now. The sad part about it is on the app, you cannot record the screen, but you can record, you can screen record, which I just learned how to do this because I'm old and I'm not tech smart, and I had other people show me how to do this. So we did detect infrasound up there based upon Todd's theories of infrasound, and Tony was the one that broke it out. And it's in the creepy area that, you know what I'm talking about, the weird, I had something happen, it was crazy. So not where we found the structure at, not where we got the picture of the face at, but here, and we ran the app doing that. I ran that app on our, you remember I ran the app when Jason Kinsey from Searching for Sasquatch came in, and Todd was nice enough to invite me to be part of the series. Airs next month, Search for Sasquatch. Me and Todd will be on, just saying, my film debut, my debut. You've already been on TV, my turn, my turn. Love you.
Quit being a little kid.
Love you. So,
Grip.
but I ran it that night on our night investigation, and I was actually picking up infrasound out there. And when I can't say much else about the show because it hasn't aired yet. You gotta watch it. But there was some crazy stuff we had happen to us up there at the bridge. So I do want to open everything up though to the Q&A real quick. So y'all can ask us any questions. Me, Wendell, Todd. Yeah, fire away. This is y'all show. So I have one hand up already. Yes, ma'am.
Whoever wants to answer it. I get slapped in the face with this a lot.
Well, let's not slap anybody in the face today.
I believe. He believes.
Okay?
So family members don't.
Happens.
I get asked if they're out there with all the satellite hanging out in space and they capture every living creature, why don't they not catch a Sasquatch?
Okay, can I answer that one?
I
You want to piggyback?
I'll say this, one of the things that I experiment with in trying to determine whether or not these things appear, disappear, or are hard to see or camouflage is, how many here believe polar bears are white?
So what?
Polar bears, they're white, right? They're not. They're not. Polar bears have a very unique feature in their fur. They have a base coat that's actually tan colored. Their skin's actually black. If you ever skin one, I don't recommend it, especially when they're alive. But they have guard hairs that extend beyond their fur. Those guard hairs serve a couple different purposes. These guard hairs are clear, absolutely clear. If you look at them under a microscope, there's no medulla, there's no core. You can literally, in a pile of, I've looked at under a microscope, a sample of Bigfoot hair. There's a certain number of them in there that are clear, where you can literally see the dark hairs right through these clear hairs, okay? What these clear hairs do, number one, is they collect the ambient light and the surrounding color, and give the polar bear the ultimate camouflage. So when they're in a snow or ice field, they blend in perfectly. They're almost impossible to see. The other thing it does is it draws in heat down to the skin level. And once that heat penetrates through that very thick hide, it keeps the polar bear warm. All right? Interesting thing to note is a 1,500-pound polar bear hardly registers on a thermal camera. Why? Because of that thick insulation that holds that heat in. Now, if I were to film somebody out, if I were to film Jacob, for instance, right now, I'm going to see him pretty clear, especially where his skin's exposed. His face, his arms are going to glow like anything. If I were to put him in my military issued ECW extreme cold weather gear, where you have down-filled pants and a down jacket, very thick, it's almost like walking in a sleeping bag, you're not going to see me on thermal. So this is one of the things it does. If you can hide a 1,500-pound polar bear from being able to be picked up on thermal imaging, imagine if we applied this to the Bigfoot. So that might go somewhere to explain what you're talking about, why we can look down and not necessarily pick them up, is because they have a very low heat signature because of a very well-insulated body. It's just my 2 bits. Anybody else?
And on that, I'm going to follow up too. Though is let's go with population. Okay, so Sasquatch doesn't have this huge population. It's not a giant population. I mean, there's lots of woods you can walk into and walk out of, and there's nothing out there because that's not where they're at. They're only located in certain areas. I mean, going out and researchers, what we do is we go off of encounters. So if we hear about encounters in encounter areas, we're going to come and check it out. We're going to come and look. You see what I'm saying? So, like, we're not going to come looking in these woods because, I mean, I know you live up on top of the hill, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Okay? So, you're not going to go in your backyard and really find Sasquatch because he's not there, but you're going to find a squirrel. Because the population of squirrels is what? It's huge. And I brought this up to somebody else and I talked about, so we know armadillos, right? And you'll see dead armadillos on the side of the road, and you'll see one rarely out there in the woods, depending upon how much time you're in the woods, except for unless you go with us and
Unless you chase one.
you chase one. Thank you, Jacob. Right? But same thing. So deer, lots of deer. We see them on the side of the roads, and you'll see them in the woods every once in a while, but not that many. But it's a bigger population. So it's a population number. You're going to see less of a smaller population. So they can have all the satellites and space they want. But again, people are going, well, we can find the license plate. Yes, because we know where the license plate is at. If you know where Sasquatch is at and he's out in the field going, hello, NASA, then you're going to see him. But we're not. I mean, they're in thick woods. They're in cover. Okay? They're in concealment. And that's what they're doing. So we're not going to find them. And if so, I'm going to go with the conspiracy here. Government scrubbing them. So.
Well, another thing to keep in mind too is, what is the likelihood that a satellite spotting a Bigfoot in the woods would not register as a human? You know, from that distance, you're not really going to be detecting the height and everything. You're going to see a bipedal creature, and you're probably just, oh, human, it's a human, without being able to get close. Just to dovetail real quick on what I was just talking about, I'm experimenting currently with fiber optics. I bought 1,000 feet of fiber optic wire.
Keep that a secret.
Which, well, it won't be a secret much longer. I've purchased a full bear rug, pelt, if you will.
It's really soft.
And I'm gonna take half of that pelt, and I'm gonna be cutting this fiber optic wire. It's about the size of like 50-pound fishing wire, if you will, but it's literally fiber optics. And I'm going to thread, it's gonna take a long time, but I'm gonna thread thousands of these little quote-unquote hairs, clear hairs. I'm gonna extend them on half of that hide. I'm gonna extend them about a half inch beyond that of a, and it's very black. It's almost, you can see black bears. So if my theory is correct, if this experiment works the way I hope it will, then I'll be able to place that pelt out in the woods in certain locations, in specific lighting conditions, and I would not be surprised if we find out that half of that pelt is almost invisible compared to the other half of it. So that's just one thing that I'm experimenting with.
Wendell, anything to follow up on the, why don't we see them on satellites?
Well, I believe they have been some, and a lot of the experts just discount it as something else. I know of 2 or 3 that's been on Google Earth that they did. Now, back to what Todd said, it just looks like a human, but when you take the size, it has to be just to be seen, so I would say it was a Sasquatch. In the locations, I know of 3 of them.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Oh, yeah, it just gives me, I just wanted some kind of idea to throw back at them, you know?
Sure.
I didn't know, but
Even if the government did catch it with a satellite, are they gonna kinda tell us this?
no.
No, they're not.
What's true?
I mean, they're gonna keep it to themselves. They're greedy.
I'm not a big conspiratorialist when it comes to the government hiding and things or whatnot, but you have to
I am.
I've worked for them.
imagine, I've worked for 20+ years. I'm just saying,
Active.
if imagine you're the quote government, you've got 2 basic choices, right? Either let it be known that there are large bipedal creatures running around in the forest, or keep it quiet. What you have to do as a government is weigh the consequences. Over here, there are going to be a number of consequences if they come out and say, yes, A, they're out there, and B, we've been keeping it from you, versus this option of keeping quiet, there are no consequences. So I don't think it's so much a conspiracy as it's just from a consequential point of view, why bother? Let it go. It's gonna be inevitable that these things are discovered and proven. It will happen, and when it does, then watch. They're gonna, well, yeah, here's all of our files, we knew that. But until then, there's no consequence for them keeping it quiet. It's not some dark, secret, evil conspiracy. It's just, when you weigh the consequences, it's just too easy to go, let it go, let it go.
Just like the drones, they fibbed to us, told us they didn't know what it was or anything, you know, what was going on.
I have an episode about that one too. I did 2 of those. No, I did TikTok and I did an episode with Uncrunchable and the drones. And my theory was it was Elf on the Shelf because it was around December. I'm just saying. I mean, it's Jersey. But the drone situation off of Bigfoot, Trump came out. His administration said the FAA had a whole bunch of approval for flights and a lot of amateur stuff. And do I buy it? Yes and no. I really don't know. There's too many different sizes of stuff. But part of the government not releasing about Sasquatch, you know, one of my theories on it, and again, it's a theory because my theories on Sasquatch change probably every hour and a half. It really does. I'll have one theory, then an hour and a half later, my brain goes to another theory. And so when it comes to the government either acknowledging or unacknowledging, one theory that I have is if it was put out there that there are these bipedal creatures out there living in the woods, we live in Arkansas, let's just be honest, okay? So we have a saying in Arkansas, if it flies, it dies, right? See, she's laughing because she knows I'm right. So if we put out there's a big hairy creature out there in the woods, how many people are going to get in their trucks and go out there and start going on a hunt? Let's just be honest. Okay, this is just in Arkansas. Now imagine it through the other states. It's going to take place. So that's one theory of the reason why. The other theory I have is the fact that Sasquatch is actually another intelligent type of creature that lives on our planet, that shares the planet with us. We're the only unique creature that we have here. There's no other creatures that do what we do on our planet. There's no other animals that build cities, that build communities. There's none. You have packs, you have hives, you have all these, we're going to have those. But when it comes to what humans do, we're the only ones. Now, if you look at what Sasquatch does, based upon reports, based upon eyewitnesses, based upon the history of it from the natives, from all over the world, other cultures, ancient cultures, of what Sasquatch has done by living in clans, by using their hands, using tools. We've seen structures out there. I guarantee you a grizzly bear is not building a structure. I mean, a beaver's going to build a dam, that's one thing, but that takes a lot and we're going to see it. But the way these creatures build some of these structures, that shows intelligence, dexterity, and patience. Exactly. So,
if they keep it a secret from us, we don't know, because now we're sharing the planet, and it throws in, the big one throws religion into a spin. It throws the whole religion thing into a spin. That's a whole nother show. Okay? But that's the reason why I think there, some, of course, and then ask me an hour and a half and I'll have a different thing, to be honest with you. Any other questions for us, you guys? Y'all got a chance to ask us questions, we're here. Anything, I don't care how crazy it is. UFOs and Bigfoot, I can cover that one too. I'll make Todd laugh on some of those. He is not riding around with Little Green Man and Elvis and Tupac, and they're not working at 7-Eleven from 2 to 8.
No, Dairy Queen.
I will tell of an encounter that happened here that an ex-Army Ranger, Darren,
What was that? I wasn't there.
he come with us. He'd been all over the world doing different kinds of recons and missions and everything, and never seen a Sasquatch. But he was trained in the military to how to deal with a Sasquatch. He even showed us the papers and everything he had saved from the military, showing what to do if you encounter a Sasquatch. Okay, he had been in it 20-something years. He come here and he goes all through the woods, just carries a knife. He was the one that went in undercover to do whatever they didn't want known. Where we was at, as the first night he went there, he said, now why would they train me if they did not exist? And I said, well, this is the place to encounter one if you're going to encounter one. That night we was below what is area 2. It was up on the hillside. He went around to the backside in the woods in the dark, come up on it, and he got within me to Todd is his description. It was down on all fours sitting like this, making noises down to us, which was down the hill below it. Ended up, it turned when he heard him step on a stick. He screamed, it screamed. There's the worst noise you ever heard of both of them running in 2 different directions on that bluff side. He come down the hill and he said, boys, they is Sasquatch. I just seen it. And since then, he carries a gun everywhere he goes and everything. So before then, he wouldn't. So
You might want to not put that.